you will be intellectually crippled. You'll never make it. You'll suffer by comparison with your peers. So here and now, give it up in public.
So John Lennox and James Tour have this conversation about people try to deter them from believing in God. So let's get right into it. Shout out to them both.
You were brought before a group of professors and they pushed you on something and they wanted you to deny your faith.
Oh, yes.
Tell us that story.
That happened around the same time.
Yes, I figured
as I went to David Gooding.
Yes.
And what actually happened was I was in my college. We had a nice dinner one night, and I found myself sitting beside a Nobel Prize winner for chemistry.
Wow.
And I chatted to him. And in those days, I was happy to talk to anybody because I found asking questions much easier than answering them. And I played Socrates. So at one stage in the conversation, we were getting on fine. And I said, look, in your work that won you the Nobel Prize, did you ever think that there might be a mind behind the universe? And he got red, he got angry. No. It was disingenuous, you know. And that was the end of it. He turned to the neighbor, as one does at these dinners, and I thought, that's it, I've blown it. But at the end of the meal, he said, Lennox, come to my room.
Oh,
and
shoot.
It wasn't an invitation, it was a command. So I went to his room, and to my great surprise, he'd invited a number of senior members of the university, 3 or 4 of them, plus the chaplain of the college. And as I remember it, they put me in a chair and they stood round. And he addressed me and he said, look, do you want a career in science? I said, yes, I do, really. I'd like one. Well, he said, if you want a career in science, in public, in front of these witnesses, you deny your naive faith in God. Because I tell you something, if you carry on with this, you will be intellectually crippled. You'll never make it. You'll suffer by comparison with your peers. So here and now, give it up in public. Talk about pressure.
Yes.
19 years old, Nobel Prize winner.
Times are different now.
Oh, they are. Well, it occurred to me even then, afterwards, that if he'd been a Christian and I'd been an atheist, he'd lost his job the next day.
Yes.
It was browbeat.
That's absolutely insane. I had no idea that at 19 years old, this professor is like, a Nobel Prize winner says, give up your faith. What would you guys do if that happened? Would you be willing to stand firm for your faith? I hope I would. I hate to be like, oh, of course, I would never do that, and be like Simon Peter, who denies Jesus 3 times.
Of the worst kind.
Yes.
So somewhere, I know from where, I got the courage to ask him a question, and I very quietly looked him straight in the eye, and I said, sir, what have you got to offer me that's better than what I've already got? And he said the evolutionism élan vital of Émile Bergson. And I thought, wow, I knew about Émile Bergson from C.S. Lewis. I didn't know at the time, I wish I had, but it didn't matter, that late in life, Émile Bergson, who was Jewish, wanted to convert to Catholicism, but didn't because of some atrocities that the church had committed in the Second World War. But all I said to him was this, because I knew that Lewis had refuted it. I couldn't remember the arguments at the time. I said, if that's all you've got to offer me, I'll take the risk. I'll stay with Christ. Good night. And I got up and walked out.
That's amazing. Wow. And look at all the amazing things that John Lennox has done. 1 Corinthians 16:13 says, be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be courageous. Be strong. Do everything in love. So good.
That was transformative. It
Yes.
put steel into my heart,
Yes.
and I resolved a whole series of things. I was only 19, I was young, but I said, Lord, if I ever get an academic position, I will never do that. Use my authority in science to go way outside my field and browbeat somebody regarding their worldview, whatever it is. And it taught me that there's an unacceptable side to academia. This wasn't science. This was his atheism coming through. And it was a good preparation for facing the likes of Professor Dawkins
Yes.
and Christopher Hitchens and so on. I didn't know that at the time, but it was important, Jim, because when you face that up, I do believe that God put some kind of confidence into your heart. And coupling that, which was facing outwards into the atheistic world, helped me enormously in my confidence in Scripture. I'm going to stick with this.
Yes.
But I'm going to learn how to explain it in such a way that even you, Nobel Prize winner, will understand it. And I learned this very early on. I remember having a discussion with David Gooding about this very thing. And he put it in a rather angular way. He said, you know, some people only study the Bible to prepare sermons. And I said, isn't that a good idea?
Only study to prepare sermons.
Sermons, yes.
I see.
And I said, but isn't that a good idea? Well, he said, in its place. But why do you study it then? He said, to hear God speak. And that again was a turning point. That notion that as the Lord promised his disciples that he would reveal himself to them by speaking through his word. And that for me, starting at roughly the same age as you, became the goal. In other words, I wanted to hear God speak. And then I would have something to say to other people, but only then.